So far, so good for the Crimson and Cream. 4 games, 4 victories that go through late August and all September, flying colors. October could be that make it or break it month for the guys from Norman. It could be a month for the Sooners where they could be cream of the crop, or they could line up as that good old cereal we like to call cream of wheat. And I hate cream of wheat. Yeah, nothing good about it at all. In other words, their national championship playoff hopes could be crushed, kind of like Oregon last night. Sooners and the Horned Frogs, both teams ranked in the top 25, both undefeated, playing at Fort Worth for the first of 2 straight trips for the Sooners to the Dallas Metroplex. Of course, next week, the showdown against the Longhorns on October 11th from Dallas. So for the Sooners, they know they got to take care of business in Fort Worth. Otherwise, that game against Texas, although it'll still be big from a national standpoint, won't have near the meaning. So the Sooners only a 5-point favorite. In a little bit, I will give you my top 5 reasons why I think this game is less than a touchdown in the favor of Oklahoma. Vegas definitely knows something about the game. Of course, the Sooners didn't have to worry about a game last week at all. They had the bye week, take advantage of some extra practice time, and, of course, get some valuable rest time from the gridiron in terms of a game. Zach Sanchez, the terrific corner, he's got an interception every game this year, and the streak actually goes to 5 if you count the Bama game last year in the Sugar Bowl. He says the shoulder feels a lot better. That's good for now. Hopefully it doesn't take a hard shot to it. Otherwise, that could make a big impact, of course. And for people out there who think, well, it's just a shoulder injury, no big deal, just play through the pain, tell you it's not that easy for a corner who relies on that shoulder for bump and run against the receiver. You can tell that West Virginia had success against him early on. And also, too, when you're trying to raise those arms up, that shoulder, it hurts big time. Of course, the injury happened against Tulsa about a month ago. And then also, too, when you're trying just to make a tackle. Not the easiest thing to do when your shoulder is far from 100%. But for right now, so far so good for Zach Sanchez. Now, talking about my byline. Of course, we are coming on later in the week than normal. Pretty late for our pregame show. Been busy, but also, too, maybe a blessing in disguise. Oregon, the Ducks, number 2 team in the country, got beat last night, in case you didn't know. And their national championship playoff hopes all but over. They lose to Arizona for the 2nd straight year. That's why my byline says, be aware of Oregon's misfortune. What happened to Oregon last night could happen to anybody tomorrow on Showdown Saturday. You got big matchups tomorrow: Nebraska, Michigan State, Stanford, Notre Dame. You got A&M, Mississippi State. Of course, Alabama, Ole Miss. And there's other big matchups as well that I'm not even mentioning. Baylor, Texas is also tomorrow as well. Auburn, LSU. But, of course, Oklahoma, TCU, and if Oklahoma's not careful, they could wind up as an upset victim. So learn from Oregon's misfortune. Top 5 reasons why I think this spread is only at 5. And remember, it started off at 4, so it's not like all the money heavily went to TCU and it went down to 5 points. No, it started off even lower, and it's moved up to 5, but it's still a slight favorite for the Sooners. Number 5, injuries. Charles Walker, again, won't play for Oklahoma on the defensive side, still injury affected. Keith Ford, same way. Running back, again, the Sooners will be 2 deep at running back instead of 3, so Walker, who missed all the West Virginia game, will miss all the TCU game as well. So that hurts because even though P. Ryan gained over 240 yards last week, we now know how good of a running back he is. What hurts is so does TCU, and they're much better against the run than West Virginia is. Remember, for the Sooners, their biggest worry last week was the offense of West Virginia. This time it's the opposite. It's the defense of TCU under Patterson. Those defenses have always been good, even when the team itself hasn't been. They give up less than 100 yards rushing per contest. So, offensive line for the Sooners knows that without Ford, again, it's going to be Alex Ross, the fast, but not quite as versatile, not quite as quick back, and P. Ryan, the power back. So, again, not having Ford there will hurt you a little bit. Number 4 reason why the Sooners are just a slight favorite. Now, remember, TCU is playing at home. Now, I know TCU as a home team hasn't been terrific, so why would I put this as one of those reasons? Because of the fact that TCU just this year alone has not traveled outside the Dallas Metroplex. Their game against Sanford and against Minnesota were both at Fort Worth, and the game against SMU, they only had to travel to the other side of the metro area to Dallas against a bad SMU team. I mean, they're really, really bad. So, again, they're going to be at home. For the Sooners, it's more about the fact that they're away from home. Again, they haven't played a home game in 3 weeks, and they won't be at home again until October the 18th against Kansas State. And we know under Bob Stoops, even though they've gotten a little bit better away from home, home definitely is where the heart is, and the Sooners play their better ball at home. That's the way it is with most teams, but for the Sooners, it's definitely more the case than probably any other team in the country as far as the home to away difference. So playing away from Norman, yeah, that could have an impact too. Number 3, OU could be looking ahead to the Texas game. Remember last year, the Sooners, double-digit favorites to beat the Longhorns, 11-point favorites to be more precise, and Texas not only won, but actually beat the living bejesus out of the Sooners. Don't think OU has it marked October 11th on that calendar in Big D for quite a while, and that game just a few days away. But again, got to keep the focus on the guys who wear the purple jerseys, not the ones who wear the orange. You'll have time to think about the Longhorns later. Number 2 reason, TCU is better than what we thought. In addition to, again, being solid on defense, that's no surprise. The offense not only is better, but they're different. Doug Meacham is now the new co-offensive coordinator along with former Texas Tech quarterback Sonny Cumbie. So they run the spread offense. They're more throw-prone, but don't forget about B.J. Catalon, the running back, who is a speedster. We saw that last year against LSU in that opening game in which he ran a kickoff back for a touchdown. So a special teams threat in addition to his blazing speed as a running back. And it looks like QB Boykin, the quarterback, has improved as a QB. Remember, they will throw a lot of those short passes. The receivers are fast. It's a team that looks like it's more speed determined than ever before. I don't know if they're so much of a power team, but speed-wise, yeah, you got to watch out for them because they can break big plays. And number 1 reason why OU is just a slight favorite to win this game, past history. TCU, even though they've lost to the Sooners each of the past 2 years as a charted Big 12 member, both games have been close. 2 years ago, 24-17. Last year, 20-17. So, get what I'm saying? TCU went 4-8 last year, but 4 of those games were decided by a grand total of 11 points. And remember, TCU only lost to Big 12 champion Baylor a year ago by just 3 points. So, TCU, a lot of the times, even when they lose, they play you tough. Now, the drawback to TCU, of course, who have they played good this year? That's the thing that people are going to be saying, and that's a valid point. Okay, Samford, really, they're not even an FBS school. Minnesota, yeah, the Gophers are just okay, if that. They play in a Big Ten conference that's not very good, and you might say, well, Minnesota beat Michigan, a traditional power. Well, Michigan stinks. They're terrible, okay? They're just flat out bad. And SMU might be one of the worst teams in the country. So even though TCU, as far as the spread looks good, Boykin is a better quarterback, you know, as far as throwing the ball, and even though defensively they're still good, we just don't know how good they are because the barometer really hasn't had a chance to rise to its level because of the competition they played. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's not like Oklahoma's played, you know, the best teams around either, but at least Tennessee, who OU handed soundly, almost beat Georgia on the road between the hedges, and West Virginia on a neutral field played toe-to-toe with Alabama for a while and only lost to the Tide by a total of 10 points, and Alabama's ranked number 1 now in one of the 2 major polls. And OU went to West Virginia and at least won by double digits. So OU, from that standpoint, they've at least been tested, okay? So OU, if they just take care of the ball, don't give up anything cheap, and again, don't think ahead to Texas. You got to think the Sooners should be able to handle this game. But you know the fans in Fort Worth are going to know about one thing. This is the biggest game that TCU has played since joining the Big 12 2 years ago. Keep that in mind. And here's something else funny, too, and this might work in Oklahoma's favor. Do you realize that TCU has only won 1 conference game since joining the Big 12 at home? That's hard to believe. That was against Kansas. That's really, really hard to believe. But again, do you think because OU hasn't always been a good road team that the Sooners are going to say, okay, yeah, we should just win based upon that stat? No way. OU, I've got to think, will take this game very seriously. Bob Stoops won't let it be any way else. 4 keys to this game to me. Number 1, it's going to be Boykin cannot be the runaway threat, all right? He cannot be. Sooners, the 2 years that they have faced him, have done a good job in containing him, but he's very athletic, fast in the open field. Even if you get your coverages down, if you have a broken assignment, he can take off, and he can make big plays happen. So be aware of that. One of the biggest weaknesses that the Sooners have is that they've given up big plays this season on the defensive side. So be aware. Number 2, Oklahoma's Trevor Knight to receiver chemistry, especially in the early going. Against West Virginia early on, he was missing receivers left and right who were open, but it wasn't all on him. Even when he did get it to receivers, we saw some drop passes as well. Deron Neal had a couple of drops in that first half. So we know that the chemistry has to be right early on. Otherwise, you're going to be putting a lot and now play it into TCU's favor. Number 3, TCU's James McFarland. He can't croak. In other words, he cannot lead that frog horn attack to success. The defensive line of TCU is their bread and butter. It's their strength. It's their everything. You let James McFarland continue what he's done so far the first 3 games of the year, it's going to be a tough day for the Oklahoma offensive side. So far, McFarland, 12 tackles, 6 for loss, 3 sacks. Understand what I'm saying? He's good. He's very good, all right? OU offensive line's done very good so far, but this will be their toughest test. Gary Patterson's defenses know how to play, especially on the defensive end. And trust me, Devontae Fields, I know he was a heck of a player during his prime there. He would have come back. They had some legal issues. Right now, I think they're better off without him. They're not better off without their all-defensive back, Jason Verrett. He's in the NFL now. But Fields, I really don't think they miss him. I think he was a chemistry disruptor, if anything else, primarily off the field. But McFarland, you better worry about. Number 4, key to this game, time of possession. If the Sooners take care of business, I've got to believe, meaning no more than 1 turnover, meaning if they force some turnovers too, and don't give up the big play, this means time of possession. This means that you let the ground game take over. You're not as dependent upon Trevor Knight, and you let P. Ryan and you let Alex Ross and company take over the game, and you wear TCU's defensive line down, in particular the interior, and that's how you put the game away. So time of possession, very big, especially watch for the second half time of possession too. That could be the winning factor. Final thoughts on this game. I do commend, TCU for their fine start. Remember, they only won 4 games last year. If they were able to pull off the upset on Saturday, and I don't rule that out, by the way, I don't rule it out by any stretch, it would already match the win total from a year ago, and there'd still be 8 games to go for the Horned Frogs. It'd be a monumental win for that program. I know they won against OU 9 years ago in the upset in Norman, but that was a non-conference game back when they were in the Mountain West. This would be an even bigger win. But I think it stops here for TCU. I think Oklahoma is too talented on both sides of the ball, and I think the game plan will be about the ground attack, and I do think they take care of business, and I think in the 4th quarter they'll wear the Horned Frogs down. I'm going to go 33-17. I think the Sooners win this game. They may not finish every drive with a touchdown, but I think Honeycutt will have a nice day. I think he'll be perfect with field goals, and I do think the Sooners will see the end zone a few times. They'll give up some plays, and I think for a half it'll be a game, but the Sooners will just have too much depth. Their athleticism will be too much, and they'll win the game by 16 points and easily cover that spread. I'll have my post-game show sometime Saturday evening. Again, I got 33-17 in favor of the Sooners. Boomer Sooner.